Yourself, I know Michael Buffer. Are you the successor of Michael Buffer?
Noticed, and they said, hey, you should try commentary because that's a common transition when you get done with the sport is you
Right.
become a pundit or a
Right.
commentator or whatever. Hopefully, whenever Turkey calls, I'd love to do a Riyadh season. But they put me in the crowd to open shows.
Adam, I think he's a
Same.
phenomenal talent. O'Hara as well. It didn't quite go his way the last fight.
Yep.
But that was a tough fight.
Yeah.
How do you see that one going?
I love the fight. It's an internal thing to where if I'm going to commit all this time and all this energy, well, then I'm going to commit it with the goal of being the best at what I do, internally at least.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Legal Blows podcast. I'm delighted today to introduce a really special guest. I'm not going to make any qualms about it. I'm probably one of his biggest fans. And this introduction will do him no justice. I probably need someone like Michael Buffer here to do this. But this is a man who's multi-talented, someone who's got the most energetic personality I know, really lights up any audience, any event. Not only is he the youngest ever professional ring announcer, he's also an MBA graduate from Northern Colorado University, a former football player, and also an entrepreneur and a businessman, CEO of SportsThread. So without further ado, let me welcome Cody, aka Big Mo. Welcome, Cody.
Nailed it. Wow. I'm going to need a new job after that. Good. Take it easy, man. Relax. I do the introductions.
Gosh, as I said, I was just saying to you, sitting in front of you here doing this is like a bit surreal because you're the best in the game. So, but thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it. And we were talking before, but I remember you and I were sat next to each other ringside at, was it Smith Eubank 1 or 2?
It was Smith Eubank 1.
It was 1.
Okay,
yeah. It was 1.
Yeah.
And that's where we just struck up a conversation. And, you were at that time from one of my favorite cities, which is Dubai.
Yeah.
And, I'm fascinated with all the culture out there and all this stuff. And obviously you're working law and my whole family background is in law and things like that. So it just was a conversation that was meant to happen. And now since then, I consider you one of my good friends over here and mentor on business sides. And we've been able to work together a little bit. So it's fitting that I come on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And as I said, we're going to deep dive into all of this. But before we get into all of this, we're proudly sponsored, this episode is proudly sponsored by Sunnah Shot. So let's have a quick shot to give us an energy and we'll have a fruitful conversation.
Let's do it. This is their beetroot and turmeric root.
What have I got? I can't remember. I think I've got the same. So salute.
Salute. Cheers. Let's give it a whiff here. Oh, interesting.
All natural ingredients, by the way. So
I like it. I like it. Let's get some kick.
So Cody, tell me.
Yes.
We want to hear a bit more about you. As I said, multi-talented guy, everybody probably knows you for the ring. The boxing world would know you for the ring announce that you do. But just walk us through you growing up as a child, college, school years, and where you're from.
Yeah, I'll give you the shortened version, I guess. So I was born in Oceanside, California, which is in a town in San Diego. Ended up moving to Colorado when I was very young.
Right.
Was raised by my father most of my life. Grew up in a town called Superior, which is outside of Boulder, Colorado. So if you ever heard of the CU Buffs and that program, a town right outside of there. Sports were always a huge part of my life. I was someone growing up, and I think it's led itself to who I am now. That I never wanted to be one-dimensional. I was always a part of a lot of different groups. I had a lot of different interests.
Right.
I was in the band growing up. I played sports growing up. I was a part of different communities. I loved, comic books and action figures.
Very
and different
cultured,
games.
huh?
Yeah, I never liked being a part of one social dynamic. I had a lot of different friends that, I had friends that weren't friends. And they were totally part of different groups. And I was kind of this one that bounced between different groups of people and things like that. But sports were always a constant. I was obviously always a taller, bigger person. So sports kind of just happened to make sense. Played football and basketball my whole life. First sport I'd ever did was martial arts, which I think was what laid the foundation for me working in combat sports now.
Okay. So when did the first question, I guess, is did you come from a sporting family? So your father or any cousins or distant relatives?
So that's the weird thing is the only other athlete in my family was my uncle played a lot of pickup basketball and things like that. So he was a basketball player, but that's it. So there were no real athletes in my family. I'm a first generation American.
Right.
My father was born actually towards the end of the Holocaust. He was born in Istanbul, Turkey, on a
Oh,
train.
wow.
So they fled, obviously, Europe, came to America. So I'm technically first generation American, so not a lot of sports background.
Right.
Great academic background, which helped me a lot. You know,
Which
my
we're going to get
was,
into, yeah.
family was
Something
full
that
of
I just
academics.
discovered recently. So, you know, as I said, a man of many talents. And then tell me, so no sporting background as such, but martial arts.
Yeah.
I would have thought you would have said basketball or football first, but martial arts, explain, how did you get into that?
I grew at a quick rate. Obviously, I'm a pretty tall person. So I struggled with balance and knowing my length and sense of direction and things like that.
Right.
Not sense of direction, but sense of balance. So my father put me into martial arts because that's a lot of the concepts of martial arts is understanding your body and range and movement and things like that. So that's kind of how it happened.
Right. And was that sort of a club after school or something a bit more serious?
It was a serious dojo. It was IMA, which is ran by the Madani family, who multi-degree black belts. Both the parents are. I'm trying to remember where they're from. I want to say one is from Iran, and then I'm trying to remember exactly the family heritage. But big network within the martial arts community. Their son, who was a friend of mine named Cameron, he's competed at the Pan American Games. He's competed. I think he was supposed to be on the Olympic team. I don't know if he was. I've kind of been removed from that world for a little bit.
Right.
But very, very esteemed group of people. We used to fly in instructors from Japan and China, 8th, 9th degree black belts.
This is high level stuff.
It was, yeah. Wow. I mean, I was young, so it only
how old were you
so much.
Then when you got into this?
5 or 6.
Oh, wow. So really young.
Yeah, I did it until I was probably 12.
Okay.
But then it got to a point where, you know, football and basketball just made more sense. And I just kind of got tired of martial arts. And there's not a whole lot of inroads for it.
Yeah.
There's no doing it in college. There's no anything like that. So I just pursued more of the team sports. And it got to a point where I was 6'5" when I was probably 13, 14.
Wow, that's a tall 14-year-old, right? 13, 14-year-old.
So at that time, it's like, all right, well, basketball kind of just makes more sense at the current moment. So that's just what I pursued. But I always loved martial arts. Like I said, I think that laid the foundation for liking combat sports now. So I ended up excelling in high school in sports. Ended up playing Division I AA football for the University of Northern Colorado, like you mentioned, played there for 5 years.
And that's just one level, I think you were saying before, one level below NFL pro.
Basically.
So it's, again, at a high level.
Correct. So I guess the way to think of it is if NFL is the top level, now you have a couple small professional organizations, but it's pretty much NFL, and then you have college. And in college, there's different divisions within college.
Right.
Technically, Division I AA is like the second highest, the second tier, but it's all kind of classified as Division I.
Right.
So yeah, I played at a very high level. A lot of teammates that I had played in the NFL or had shots at the NFL, a couple in the CFL, the Canadian Football League. Wow. So yeah, I was around football a lot.
And can I ask, did you get into university through the football side of it? Or, because I know, again, we'll touch on to the academic side, but obviously a bright lad.
Both of them.
Sporty as well. But it was both.
I was in a good enough position where I was able to not require as much athletic scholarship money.
Right.
Because I supplemented a lot with it with academic.
Okay.
And that was actually, I had a great relationship with the coaching staff, and there were opportunities where I actually qualified for certain academic scholarships, which helped freed up money for the program for other people that maybe need more athletic money, things like that. So I said to you earlier, I was a better student than I was a football player. I just love school. I love academics. I love learning. I love going to class, things like that. It just came easy.
And you were mentioning, like, I'm a lawyer, when you said, I think your uncle, your one of the federal judge, whole family of lawyers, right?
My aunt's a judge, or is a judge for Santa Clara County. My uncle was an attorney and my father was an attorney.
There was your father as well, right? Okay, interesting.
So I grew up around law my whole life. I was always around it. That was always kind of like a backup plan if I ever wanted to pursue it.
Yeah. I think you'd make a great lawyer.
I think I would too. My thing is, what I liked about law is I didn't enjoy the studying of law.
Right.
What I liked is I liked the logical reasoning.
Yeah.
Like a ton of law, especially because my father was a trial attorney and that's what I would have wanted to do.
Yeah.
a lot of trial is logic-based reasoning and getting people in an argument and, a train of thought that you can take a jury down, or, battling against your opposing attorney, things like that. That's what I liked.
Yeah.
The problem is with law, and you can attest to this, is to really be successful in law, you also just have to like law.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to enjoy that. You have to know how to memorize laws, and you can just pull things out of your brain, this law or this, this aspect of the legal system, things like that. And that as much isn't really as much as I enjoyed.
Yeah. See, the reason I say you'd be a great lawyer, I think maybe an American lawyer or a barrister. So in the UK, we have solicitor, barrister. So I'm a solicitor and I sit behind my desk, do a whole lot of paperwork and drafting. Someone like yourself, I could just envisage being in front of a judge or jury.
Yeah.
And just really, you're a great orator. And I think, I've said this before, and I'm not just saying it because you're sitting in front, but you speak really, really well.
Well, it's funny you say that, because my father is where I learned how to properly speak from. So
interesting.
My dad, who I now kind of take care of, he's a little bit older.
Right.
My dad was a very smart person.
Right.
And he basically at some capacity almost homeschooled me along with the school that I went to. So he was like a huge part of doing homework with me and doing projects with me. And I think initially a lot of teachers growing up were like, well, if your parents are helping with the homework, blah, 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 then you're not as learning as much, when in actuality, and this is no disrespect to my teachers, but he might have known more than a lot of them. And he was actually able to help me. So I was reading at a high school level when I was like in the 5th grade or 6th grade. Like I was very advanced in that type of stuff, very advanced in mathematics and arithmetic and things like that, because he just taught me it and he would sit with me and do homework. But what he also taught me how to do was also how to speak in front of people and how to present.
Right.
And growing up, he never like got babysitters for me. He would bring me to meetings and he would bring me to things and I would just sit.
Just learn and observe, right?
So
like
I
a
would
sponge.
sit there, correct.
Yeah.
I would sit there and I would watch someone who was a trial attorney for 25 years be a part of a meeting, speak in front of people, do a presentation.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of just acclimation learning that I had and was a benefit to me.
Yeah.
So the public speaking, like you mentioned, a huge part of being a trial attorney is public speaking, how to be in a forum, how to talk in front of people. So absolutely, I would categorically say that upbringing is a big reason why I'm a public speaker.
Yeah. It sounds like your father's had a profound impact on your life. Would you say
important.
Your father is your hero?
Yes, I would absolutely say that. Yeah. He and I have a very close relationship. He battles with some dementia and Alzheimer's now, which is kind of tough because I grew up with this person who taught me all these things, and now he's kind of dealing with a degenerative brain disease. So it's tough, but at the same time, it makes me appreciate what I was able to learn from when I could.
Yeah.
And so in terms of upbringing, absolutely. Hero, most important person, teacher, mentor, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and I saw sometimes as a parent, we're probably unsung heroes.
Yes,
it's,
exactly.
Like to take some credit, but it's a lovely sort of your recognition for your father, and he's done a wonderful job.
Yeah.
You are who you are today, I guess, because of him.
Absolutely, and I think his whole mission, and I think the mission of any parent, is to be better than your parents, and to start that trend of continuously leveling up within your lineage.
Yeah.
My grandparents, dealing with the stuff that they dealt with, the Holocaust and moving, there were a lot of flaws that they had. I never met my grandparents, but they were geniuses. My grandmother, they both were scientists. They both were geneticists. Wow. My grandfather ended up being he was a dean at Duke University and UCLA and things like that for genetics. My grandmother taught Sally Ride, who was the first female astronaut. They were big academics, and they passed that down to my father. Yeah. So I think that my father then knew how to pass it to me, but I think he tried to smooth out some of the edges that maybe his grandparents had. So I always think that a parent's goal is to be better than their parents, which makes me almost kind of nervous to be a parent myself, because I'm like, damn, I got to outbeat my dad, and he was great, so I got to figure that out. So.
I think it's only a father or parent who wants their kids to do better than themselves. Absolutely. Otherwise, no one else in the world would want that, I think, other than a parent. So, and on that, tall, handsome young man, we let the ladies know that you're looking like, are you married?
No, I'm a single person.
That's it. Ladies' number would be on the link. No, I'm joking.
Always looking for the right person. I'm a patient individual.
Yeah, too, absolutely. So. No need to rush it. You're a baby, really. I mean, I was saying before, you called me bro. I'm like, you're just a few years older than my elder son, so should be uncle. But I'll take bro. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
But tell me, so now you've got into the football and the basketball.
Mhm.
How did the rest of
Yeah.
university? How did you sort of finish up
Yeah.
at university, and what happened after?
So again, I loved school. I loved university. A big reason why is I knew I wanted to pursue business even when I was in high school. So it's
Okay.
funny. Growing up, I actually wanted to be a cook and a chef. That was like a
Oh
passion of
wow.
mine.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
So again,
that's
multi-talented,
yeah,
passionate about all sorts.
exactly. But eventually, obviously, that's a tougher road to go down, and it's
Yeah.
a brutal career. Respect to chefs that are out there. It's
Yeah.
insane amount of work. But I knew I wanted to study business because my high school offered business courses
Right.
to count as college credit.
Right.
I was at a point where after my freshman year of high school, that's what I wanted to study. I was like, I want to study business in college. And I actually got upset because like I told my counselors in high school, I was like, I know I'm going to study business in college. Do I really need to take chemistry? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to pursue that. With all due
Yeah.
respect, it's not my thing, but I couldn't obviously. So
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to study business. I came into business school in college at a pretty high level. I already had a sundry classes done.
Right.
I obviously had a decent business understanding
Yep.
because of what my father taught me.
Yep.
So I came in and I was able to graduated early with my undergrad degree. At that point, both myself and my friend, who's now also kind of a business partner with me and who I work with at the company that I'm a part of, he graduated early also.
Right.
We were the only person that would partner up with each other for projects. We
Yeah.
did every class together. Like we worked great together, and we still do. His name is Keenan. We wanted to get our MBAs.
Yeah.
And at the time, the university, they only had a program in place for part-time students wanting to get their MBAs. So
Right.
for example, it's common in America that you graduate with an undergrad, you go and get in the workforce, and then you can come back and get your master's degree or get your doctorate later on.
Okay. Yep.
So they didn't have a program designed for full-time students.
Right.
The problem is with football eligibility, you need to be a full-time student to play football. So we needed to pick something.
Okay.
So we were like, all right, well, maybe we can go get, their undergrad degree in economics or something like that. But we really wanted to get our MBAs. So
Yeah.
I had a good relationship with the business school. We both did.
Yeah.
I was an ambassador for the business school. I would help with, orientation for new students and things like that and sign up for classes and all that. So I had a good relationship with the dean and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what we did is we petitioned the university and said, look, we have the professional experience background because at that time we were helping kind of get Sports Thread off the ground. And we were
Yeah.
kind of, we were like the first two employees involved in the company.
Yeah.
I think he was the first employee. I was actually the first intern.
Okay.
So we had that professional experience.
Yeah.
And we basically built out a curriculum that allowed us to finish in 1.5 or 2 years, which would constitute being a full-time student.
So you engineered this curriculum sort of bespoke just for you guys
Correct.
to enable you to do your, okay. Wow.
I still have the proposal and the documentation and everything. Yeah. And so we showed how it could be done.
Yeah.
We filled the gaps with independent studies to where we'd work one-on-one with the professor, and we had good relationships with professors. So we did that. And we were able to craft a program that allowed us to graduate as full-time. We became the first full-time MBA graduates from the university, the youngest MBA graduates from the university.
Wow.
We competed in business competitions all over the country, won a lot of business competitions all over the world, which was a lot of fun.
Wow.
So as much as I loved football and loved sports, I loved school and academics that much more. So
wow, that's fascinating. And also, I guess what's really fascinating is I think that it's clear there's always been a desire to do business and this sort of entrepreneurial nature that you have.
Yeah.
And I guess for someone who's worked at a company for God knows how many years now, sort of look back and I think, right, what am I going to leave to my kids? Because once I'm done, whatever I've done is gone.
Right.
I can't pass over that. And this 9 to 5 sort of, or 9 to, in my case, 9 is a bit of a, so what was the desire to focus or pursue business? Was it, you didn't want to be working for someone else and you wanted to create your own legacy, be part of something that you build from start and you see it right through the end?
I think what it was more so is I liked a lot of the topics that are in business and whether it's theory and really what it more so was is everything is a business.
Yep.
At any capacity.
Yep.
Even if you pursue chemistry and you want to work in a lab, well, guess what? A lab is a business.
Yep. Yep.
Business is what's allowing you to do your research and conduct your research. So everything is a business. And I believe, and people have differing views on what college and university are and is and what the purpose is. I believe that the purpose is to get you ready for the real world.
Yeah.
That's kind of the last step that someone, when they're 18 years old, will do. That's kind of their entryway into the world. They have some freedom, but they're still in a school. And then once they get done with college or whatever level of education, now they're in the real world.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, all right, well, what degree could I pursue that, one, I enjoy, two, I think would challenge me, three, is something that I could pursue, and four, also just naturally puts me in a good position in the world? Business is that answer for the most part.
Yeah.
I think that, one flaw, at least I can't speak on the school systems everywhere, but I think a flaw in American university is you offer some studies and some degrees that you can get that are so niche that it doesn't really prepare you for anything, because you want to go, like, I'm not trying to hate on anyone, but I don't know how many art historians there are in the world, but there's very few, right? So it's immediately, all right, well, you're pursuing an education in this that may or may not really put you in a great position to succeed or build a life outside of college. So that's a big reason why I pursue
that seems like a passion thing, doesn't it? If you're interested in something, go for it, but don't expect to be able to put bread on the table with that sort of focus. So
I agree. So it's tricky.
Okay, and I've got to ask you, I hope you don't mind this, Cody, but I've seen some of your stuff on social, the Instagram page. And obviously, you're a tall guy. You were 6'4" at 13, 14. You're now, you say 6.7, making my ceiling seem really low in the house. Tell me, I've got to ask this now, right? After this amazing, even high-level sports career, which is I think it's fair to say it was at a high level. The academics is at a really high level. How did you end up becoming a professional ring announcer, please?
So, I guess to harken back to what I said earlier, that I always had a lot of different interests growing up and I always was into different stuff. One thing that I was always enamored by was entertainment. And I always really liked it. Despite growing up, I was actually like a pretty socially awkward person growing up. I was not great. So, which you wouldn't.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
Everyone that I say that to doesn't understand it. But yeah, I always was very socially awkward. I just wasn't great with people. I was better with adults than I was kids and things like that. And, I wasn't great talking to girls growing up, things like that. But I always loved entertainment, loved movies, loved TV, I loved the idea that you could watch something and just completely detach from your life. You can go and watch a movie and it's like you're in a totally different world.
All the troubles have gone away, haven't they?
You're focusing on this story that's being told, whether it's a movie, whether it's reading a book, whether it's watching a play, like it's whatever you like, you can just detach from it. So I was always enamored by entertainment for that reason.
Right.
And, I had dreams of being an actor. I had dreams of doing all this stuff and just being in front of people and entertaining people. So at the tail end of my college career, I started hosting like events, like little galas and banquets and things like that. And I had friends that went and they noticed and they said, hey, you should try commentary, because that's a common transition when you get done with the sport, is you become a pundit or a commentator or whatever. At the time, I was tired of football and basketball, played it my whole life, whatever. I was fried, but I loved combat sports. So I was like, all right, well, what if I could get a commentary job being a fight commentator?
Right.
Well, the good thing about combat sports, there's a lot of small organizations all over, regional side, local side, whatever. I found a local organization called Sparta. And I joined them as a commentator. And
was this also, Cody, just to interrupt you there, and apologies, but was that just you going out and seeing what type of shows or companies would give you one of these commentary gigs? Was that your own?
Well, I started cold calling. I was like, hey,
just took the initiative.
I was like, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. Are you in need of a media personality? Things like that. I told them I have no experience, but I'm willing to work and try, and ran to Sparta, who is ran by a guy named Jeff Cisneros, who is an entrepreneur himself. And he saw, I think, the drive that I had, and he was willing to take a chance, and he needed some young personalities involved. So he let me become a color commentator.
Right. Still
love doing commentary whenever I can. But I remember seeing the announcer, the MC, and I was like, I think I can do that. That seems, I'm fine being by myself. I'm cool being in front of people. Let me give that a shot. And eventually I got a chance to do it. And it kind of just took off from there. I started leveraging social media a lot and getting my name out there. I started doing research on ring announcers. I remember, because it's such a niche and small industry of like, I've said it before, but of professional ring announcers that actually like do shows and make a career out of it. There's maybe 10 or 15 in the whole world. It's a very, very tight knit community. So I just started doing research and seeing who was out there and started to teach myself on my own because there's no textbook that I can read. There's no ring announcing for dummies book that I can read. So I was like, I got to figure this all out.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed is that there weren't a lot of young people doing it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of activity on social media. There wasn't a lot of branding going on or anything like that. So that was my route. Right. So I started posting a lot on social media, on TikTok, and went viral, whatever that is, a couple times. And that led to bigger and bigger shows and bigger shows. And then ultimately I did the Hafthor Bjornsson versus Eddie Hall fight in Dubai. That was the first time I ever went to Dubai. Yeah. And that's kind of where Boxer and Sky Sports discovered me. And that's actually where I got the initial message of interest in Dubai when I was there.
Right. Wow.
And then some time went on. And then I had an opportunity to do a test run, and the rest is history.
There's a lot covered there, right?
Yes.
So let's rewind.
Dial it back.
Let's rewind
that's
a bit,
the full
because
story. Yeah.
When you talk about commentary, even if it's on TV, you've got co-commentators.
Correct.
And the focus is a bit on the commentators, and then the cameras flips to somewhere else.
Yeah.
When you're in the center of that ring, it's just you. Yeah. You're under the bright lights, and the spotlight is on you.
Yes. I've
That's
said
daunting. For me, it would be really daunting.
I've been asked a question that I've gotten asked, and a comment that I've seen from people on the internet is basically saying, well, he just goes up there and he reads off of a card and things like that. Number one, I don't like to use notes a lot. Yeah. And I've also said that there's a difference between an announcer and someone that reads names. Yeah. I don't read names. Yeah. You've seen what I do live. Yeah. It's damn near a performance, basically. Yeah. And I say that respectfully to the show, but I play a role in the show. Yeah. I have a unique role in that I am the only person that speaks to both the TV audience and the in-arena audience. Yeah. Commentators only talk to the TV audience and maybe the radio audience. Yeah. So I have an added level of complexity, which that I not only need to be engaging enough to a live audience, but I also need to be toned enough for it to transfer into television as well. Yeah. And I have to do it in a way to where I not only get the attention of everyone that's in the arena, but I also get your attention that's watching at home. Yeah. So there's a lot of nuance to it. That is what makes the job difficult. The difficulty of the job is not, understanding the flow of the show or reading off certain things. At least I don't find that to be the difficult part. Maybe some people do. Yeah. I don't find that hard. But the complexity is I'm doing it live. Yeah. There's no, hey, cut. Can we do that again? Yeah. There's none of that.
Like we did earlier on this podcast.
Exactly. There's none of that. And it's also a level of extroversion. Yeah. To where I have to be this basically a character. Yeah. And I've made this comment multiple times, but I've gone on record saying that my job is semi-ridiculous. And it is. When you think about it conceptually, like I get into a ring wearing a tuxedo. No one else is, some fans are wearing, dressed up. It's a formal event, but I'm wearing this tuxedo. I'm introducing these people that you already know. I'm reading off information that you may already know. Yeah. But it adds an element to the show that just works. It just makes sense for some reason. No other sport has it. They have PA announcers that come over, but they don't have someone actually down there doing it. But for some reason with fighting and combat sports, it just works. Yeah. And that's why so many people love Michael Buffer, Bruce Buffer, Jimmy Lennon, myself, maybe whoever announcer you like, you like how that announcer does it, and it helps just kind of gear you up for a fight. And it just, I don't know, it works.
You're absolutely right. And as we were saying before, I've been to a number of fights live now. Different broadcasters, different ring announcers. Yep. Michael Buffer is a legend. We know that, right? Absolutely. And everybody knows him. Cody or Big Mo is the only professional ring announcer that I know the name of.
Thank you.
And I'm not just saying that because having been to a number of shows, and I've said this to you, I think before many times now, as a fight fan, the anticipation, that atmosphere, the build-up, whilst you're in the ring, the anticipation of, especially the main bout, even the ones before on the undercard, but the main one, right? The way you energize the crowd is something else.
Thank you.
And you've got to take a lot of credit for that.
Thank you.
Similarly, when we watch at home, we can see and feel the vibe. And I'm saying this as a pure fight fan. I'm not a boxing coach, manager, or anything like that. As a pure fight fan, it makes a lot of difference.
I appreciate
and
that.
I don't know anybody else who does it the way you do. So
Good.
again, hats off to you.
Thank you. No, that's the goal, is to have my own little spin and have my own uniqueness that I do to it. But I think you touched on, what the big passion is to me, and I told you how I like entertainment.
Yeah.
Live sports, yes, it's sports, but it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Especially with combat sports, it's a show more than anything else. That's why I call it shows. Whenever you see me on social media, I go, I have a show here, I have a show there. But yeah, it's a fight, but there's so much else around it that is more show than anything else.
100%.
If you ask the average fan what their favorite part is, a lot of them are going to say the main event ring walk.
Yeah.
That's the favorite part for a lot of people. There's no sport involved in that. It's just them walking, but they have music and they have fireworks and they have live performances, and it's this whole theatrics around it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes it amazing. And I've gone on to say this before, but if we as a broadcaster, a network, or a promotion want people to sit down and to watch our show for an extended period of time, it needs to be dynamic. It needs to be engaging. And I play in that aspect a very important role. In the grand scheme of the show, I only play a role, but in terms of it being entertaining and grabbing and gripping and gets your attention.
And it's that build-up, isn't it? But we can't wait. We're sort of licking our lips and rubbing our hands, thinking the build-up's coming, and you're building it right up until
the crescendo.
The crescendo, exactly. So, right. which is amazing. Just related to that, I guess you've got this, I think, this talent of engaging and getting everyone gripped in. And as you've said, Cody, there's no manual for this.
No.
How do you prepare to do a big show? Do you rehearse? Do you research? Do you have to do any vocal exercises? I mean, what's the drill?
Well, that's a good question. I think the first part of your question is interesting, and I think I have kind of a unique standpoint from it, in that when I started, yes, I looked at other MCs and other announcers, and I try to take inspiration where I could and see, okay, I kind of like how this person did that, or how he or she did this, blah, blah, blah. But to really do what I wanted to do and to really change how this job is done and really take it to levels that haven't been done before, I started looking at and researching and examining just speakers in general, in the sense of maybe motivational speakers. I looked at stand-up comedians.
Right.
I looked at how all these people who they're on a stage by themselves, what do they do with their delivery or their body movement or their action that helps them command presence? My job is to get your attention. That's my job. When you really boil it down, because I'm saying, I know all this is going around you. I need you to listen to what I'm saying, because I'm about to say who this person is and who this person is. So I need you all to focus, right? So I started looking at, all right, well, how does this stand-up comedian, build suspense with his joke? How does this motivational speaker, bring the audience back into their original point?
That's the student in you, right? That's the academic side of you, of wanting to research. And
it's fun. And it's been fun basically building this brand character. It's myself, but it's basically this position, this role that I play. And there's a lot of different ways to draw inspiration. Now, the second half of your question is kind of more technical. How do I warm up? How do I practice? Again, and that comes from taking inspiration from other people. So I've talked to singing coaches. I've talked to vocal coaches. I've watched videos on opera singers and how they kind of warm up, because I always actually knew how to do this, but there's a difference between yelling and projecting. There's a huge difference. A lot of MCs that are out there, they try to go with this Bruce Buffer model, or even a little bit like how I do it, which is very, very extroverted, very intense, very passionate. The problem is it sounds like they're shouting. They're yelling at you. There's a difference. Basically, absolutely. What I say is you have to throw your voice, in the sense of, if I'm talking to you at this volume, I want the tone and the flow and everything to be the same. I just want to be 10 times louder. So there's a difference between, all right, well, I'm going to yell and I'm going to strain myself, versus just take what I'm saying, but know how to project it in a way to where I can throw it at someone that's up in the top nosebleeds of the arena, but it actually sounds decent, versus me just straining myself to be as loud as possible, if that makes sense.
No, it does. So. And I've got to ask you this, as I said, there's a finite number of professional ring announcers. And as I said, other than yourself, I know Michael Buffer. Are you the successor of Michael Buffer?
If you asked the articles that have been written about me, they would say, yeah. And again, I've spoken very publicly about the Buffers. I think I've interacted with them a little bit. I think that they're world-class people. They're very nice to me. I respect them both as entrepreneurs and as announcers. But respectfully to them, I don't want to be anyone's successor. I don't want to be the next anyone. I don't want to be the next Buffer. I don't want to be the next Lennon or anyone. I have no interest in that. I want to be me. And I want to be uniquely me. And I think that the Buffers also respect that because they've gone on record saying that, because they've always been asked, oh, well, who's going to do it after you? And they've always said, well, whoever does it should do their own thing, should be their own person. So yeah, have I been compared to the Buffers? Yes. People on the internet once thought I was Buffer's son. Maybe it's because we're white dudes with slick back hair. Who knows the reason why? So I guess some people would look at it like that. I don't. I'm just trying to be me.
Yeah, and it's probably the best way, right? And you'll bring so much more. And again, I still can't believe you're at the tender age of 28, so you've got a long, successful future ahead of you, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And tell me, Cody, like, what's the biggest show you've done?
Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall was massive. That was the first ever all women's fight in the UK. That was the fight that initially got postponed because of the Queen passing. So there was a whole lot of reasons that made it big, but that was big for me because that was the first like big show that I did. For Sky, for Boxer, and a global syndication. It was on ESPN. It was a huge deal. So,
let me just sort of put it up there. I should have maybe mentioned. So this was your first Boxer show?
No, it was my third.
Okay.
But it was the first like big show
one. Okay. Right. I see.
First pay-per-view. It wasn't a pay-per-view, but it was the size of it.
Size of it, yeah.
It chose to make it free to air, and it ended up doing like, I think it did like 2.5 million viewers just in the UK. So probably 5 million worldwide when you factor in that Clarissa was American and she was the A side and everything like that. So it was a massive show. That's probably the biggest one that I've done. The Smith Eubank fights were big because they were pay-per-view and things
that's where
like
we
that.
met.
Yeah, that's where we met. Exactly. But yeah, probably Shields Marshall was the biggest when you look at global viewership and impact and things like that.
Okay.
Millions around the globe face unimaginable crisis. Emaan Relief is working tirelessly in 24 countries to alleviate poverty through relief, education, and empowerment. We have provided global humanitarian aid, including water projects, emergency relief, housing for flood victims, and medical initiatives. Donate now at emanrelief.org and be sure that 100% of your donations will reach those who need it the most.
And what shows presented you with the most challenges or difficulty, if I can say?
Whenever I go to a country where English isn't the main language, that can sometimes be a little complex. Maybe culturally they don't behave the same way at sporting events. Maybe they're more of a timid culture, maybe more of a respectful, quiet culture. So whenever I do shows like that, especially if they're a smaller crowd, that's where it's harder for me. The smaller crowds are always tougher for me than the big crowds because my style naturally relates more to arenas and stadiums and big crowds and loud and energy and all that type of stuff. When you dial it down, that's almost where it's tougher, which is funny because that's the size crowd that I started out on. But yeah, I honestly, I think you could throw me in most fights in most situations and
you'd pull it off.
I would be okay.
We've got no doubt.
That's a level of confidence, I guess, that I have in myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And now touching on the relationship with Boxer. That's a massive platform. I think, Boxer as a promotion company and then being broadcasted on Sky Sports. I think it's the largest platform in the UK, if not further afield, right? So that's a massive platform. To get an opportunity like that. And they came calling, right? When it came to...
They reached out to me,
Dubai.
And that was the surprise because I was like, why would you want an American MC? But then they...
But it hits different.
Correct. And that's what everyone here tells me. Because they said, well, the American is the international accent. I don't think of American as an international accent because I'm from America. I look at your accent being international. So it's funny that they think like that. But no, it's been fun because I think I'm the only America media personality that works with Sky. I don't know how many Americans work with Sky.
You know what? You're right.
So
you're
maybe
right. All the commentary, the pundits. Yeah, you're right. Wow.
So that's kind of different. But and now Boxer also distributes on NBC Peacock, which is massive in America. So Yeah, no, it's an amazing relationship. I love working with Ben Shalom and his whole team and Baz, and I could list off,
Yeah,
20
all of
employees,
them.
30 employees that I know, but
Yeah,
it's been an amazing journey. I didn't think that it would go this route.
right.
I didn't expect me to be I'd tell all my friends I'm big in Europe,
Yeah,
so that's been fun for me, but being able to travel and meet so many people from different cultures, yourself being one of
yeah,
them, and interacting with all these different types of people. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I've only been doing it for 2 years now, I
yeah.
think.
But you're a legend in the game already.
Yeah, I'm
Honestly, I
working
kid
on
you
it.
not. I kid you not. But it's interesting because one of the things, as I said, I was taken aback with when we met.
Yep.
I think the first fight, it was an Adam Azim
Yep.
fight, and my daughter was with me. I had her for the first time. She was watching, and you kindly took a picture with her. And I was too scared. She was like, "Dad, I want to take a picture with Big Mo." So I was like, "All right, you ask him." But you came over,
Yeah.
took the picture. Then when we sat again, I was a bit nervous because you're working as one.
Yeah,
and
true.
You're,
Yeah.
well-known person. And we were just sitting there in the corner somewhere.
Yeah.
But we had the best exchange probably ever.
Yeah.
I think we kicked it off, gelled, and
Clearly.
exchanged numbers. And before you know it,
Yeah.
I would like to think we're good mates now.
Yes, absolutely.
And that just shows the character of yourself.
Thank
I think you're obviously incredibly bright, hardworking, but just the down-to-earth guy who, being social, I still can't believe that. But
Yeah.
I think you're just a well-liked guy, right?
I don't like not being a nice and that sounds like cliche and kind of corny, but like I don't love confrontation.
Yeah.
I try not to be a confrontational person. I have been. I don't
Yeah.
like to be that. I'd rather get along with someone
Yeah.
than anything else. But when I'm at the shows, I like being amongst the fans. I like walking out. I remember, something fun that Sky has done with me, and this is why I love working with Sky, is they're so creative with their broadcasts, and Boxer obviously the same. But they put me in the crowd to open shows. I've opened shows from the crowd all the time, and I love doing it because I love interacting with the people because I think what we forget sometimes is the fans are the most important stakeholder.
Yeah.
They're the reason why we have an industry. If it wasn't for consumption of the product, I don't have a job. These promotions don't exist. The boxers don't get paid, etc. So I love the fans that go to these shows because thank you for buying a ticket. You're going out of your way to watch this. You're choosing to watch it at home. So that's why I like taking pictures. That's why I like talking to fans. That's why I like meeting the kids that come with their parents, because I was raised by a father that took me to see movies and took me to sporting events, so I can appreciate that. And I look at a family, it's like, all right, well, they chose to spend their hard-earned money to come here. Yeah, I'll meet him. Yeah, I'll take a picture with you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, isn't it? Because my daughter was one of many who was in the line to take a picture with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a fan base there already. And even, the last fight I met you at was the Callum Simpson fight.
Yep.
And I wasn't right ringside of that one.
Yeah.
But you took the time, again, to come over in between. And I appreciate that. So thank you. That just shows the kind of person you are.
I prefer to be that way.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Sort of moving on now. So the boxer thing, Sky Sports, brilliant.
Yep.
You were in Leeds over the weekend?
Yes, I was in Leeds.
Tell me about the bare knuckle scene a bit.
Yeah. So bare knuckle is another sport that I announce for. I've announced for all combat sports, whether it's MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, bare knuckle boxing, whatever. So I work with a company called BYB Extreme.
Okay.
It was, when you look at the history of bare knuckle, because bare knuckle predates boxing, right? It's actually one of the oldest sports that we have. But they almost have kind of two versions of history, because they have the version here in Europe, but then they also it gained a lot of popularity in America, specifically in South Florida, where you have people, Kimbo Slice maybe rings a bell.
Yeah, of course.
He also had a partner in Dada 5000. They ended up having a fight later on, but Dada 5000 invented BYB Extreme.
Right.
And we fight in a triangle. It's a triangular ring.
Oh, wow.
Now, the reason why it's a triangle is it actually, when you take away a corner and you shrink the corners, instead of having 4 90-degree corners, you have 3 60-degree corners. So you can't get caught in the corner. If you get caught in the corner, there's no way out of the corner.
You're gone,
So it forces action towards the inside. We have over a 95% finish rate. It's at times can be a pretty,
how many rounds do they go for, and how long are the rounds?
5 3-minute rounds.
5 3-minute rounds.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. That's so similar to MMA. Yeah. So it's a fight, and it's brutal, and it's tough, and it is very different than anything else. I think the sport of bare knuckle is growing at a very quick rate, which is excellent.
Yeah.
I think that you have a lot of fighters that are excelling more in bare knuckle than they would have elsewhere. You're seeing techniques be formed that you maybe don't see in other combat sports because of the fact that it's bare knuckle. For example, I work with Paulie Malignaggi, who's a former world champion. He's the color commentator for us with Mike Goldberg, who used to do the UFC.
Yeah.
Paulie, has become enamored with bare knuckle because a lot of boxing people would almost put their nose up to bare knuckle, right? But when it's bare knuckle, you have to be very accurate with your shots. You have to be very calculated with your shots. You have to turn over your punches or you'll break your hand. You don't have the benefit of a glove.
Yeah.
So it's interesting watching the sport grow and build out its own market, and it's cool being a part of it.
And that's something nascent, right? And you can,
I
haven't followed it as much. Now I will be, given that you're involved, I guess. But it seems like there's a real growth market here for people to get involved and behind, because it's the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to watch the boxing or combat sport for knockouts. And brutality, if I'm honest, right? So this
absolutely.
Ticks all the boxes.
Look, and some people like bare knuckle, some people don't. It definitely has its violent moments, as does every combat sport. But people forget that the UFC was in the same position bare knuckle is in 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You had US politicians that were calling it human cockfighting and wanted to ban UFC and MMA, and they couldn't legalize it in certain states. But look at what MMA is now.
Yeah.
MMA is $1 billion industry. You have schools all over the world. You're teaching it. So that's why, the people that are involved in bare knuckle are confident in the market and growing, is because they saw it already happen with mixed martial arts that was called Equally Brutal when that came out.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's a growing market, starting to gain a lot of popularity, and I'm excited to see where it goes for sure.
Well, I'll keep a closer eye out as well. And I'm not sure if I can handle all the brutality, but I'll try my best.
Yeah.
Quick fire question, I guess. Tell me, Cody, who's your favorite boxer of all time?
All time. The tough thing is because I'm also younger. So I'm also, it's tough for me to comment on people that I didn't watch. Like obviously Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, people like that, because I can go back and I can watch some of their stuff. So I'm huge fans of them.
Yeah.
But in terms of the ones that I've kind of grown up with and see, I'm actually a massive Canelo fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. I love Anthony Joshua. There's tons that I like. And especially now, because I work with so many of them. I like them all for different reasons. I'm a huge Chris Billum-Smith fan because he's the first boxer over here that I announced. And now I've announced all of his fights, and now he's going to headline a Riyadh season card for a world title unification. So there's different reasons why I like boxers. But I guess if I had to pick one all time, I love Muhammad Ali and what I've learned from him, and I love that he was a showman beyond just a boxer.
He's the complete entertainer,
correct,
entertainer inside and outside, right?
Correct.
So that resonates, I'm sure. With
the first, I remember the first. I'm trying to remember the first like big boxing match that I watched. Maybe it was that Mayweather De La Hoya, things like that, because I was still a kid when those fights were happening. So my history has obviously shrunk because I'm younger.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I've been able to go back and watch a lot of clips. I'm a massive David Haye fan.
Yeah.
Massive David Haye fan. He's one of my, because when I got the job here, I had to educate myself on the history of British boxing, because it's hard for the British boxers to make their way across back over to America and gain popularity there. We saw it with Tyson Fury, saw it a little bit with Ricky Hatton, a little bit with Amir Khan, a little bit with Prince, but so I had to educate myself, and I had to watch all these great fights that were on Sky that I never really even knew that they happened. And throughout all my research, I became a huge fan of David Haye. And I got to meet him at I think it was the first or second Smith Eubank.
Right.
So shout out to David Haye, big David Haye fan. But for that same reason, is that he was a showman beyond just a fighter. I love the pure fighters, but I also love the people, because again, I work on the entertainment side of the sport. I also can appreciate the fighters that added that extra element to it, to where it's like maybe they were the villain. Maybe sometimes people paid to watch them lose. I think that's fascinating because you built this persona and you built this brand to a point where people are actually spending their money to watch you get beat.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's great PR, isn't it?
It's almost illogical that works, but it does. I think it's cool.
Yeah. And it's the whole entertainment thing. I think you've got a number of boxers who are really top class, elite boxers, but that's not enough in today's world. No. You've got to put bums on seats and you've got to get viewership.
And if you don't, you better be the bona fide best boxer
ever,
in the world.
Pound for pound almost, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you better learn how to sell.
Yeah. And Cody, you mentioned Chris Billam-Smith in headlining in Riyadh season.
Yeah.
When are we seeing Cody announcing in Riyadh on a Riyadh season show? Because if anyone should be there, it should be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's that would be amazing. I think what Turkey and his team and his group and the various people involved are doing is great for the sport. I love the influx of popularity. I love the influx in viewership. I love to see the promoters working together and the networks working together. Like, it's fascinating what's happening.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing a unification of an industry that for so long has been severely fragmented, and it still is.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing people try to kind of pull the pieces together a little bit. So it's awesome. Hopefully whenever Turkey calls, I'd love to do a Riyadh season show. You know, we talked about how, you know, I like to drive energy and build an atmosphere. I think I can build an atmosphere anywhere, and I would love to be able to build an atmosphere with the Riyadh shows.
Yeah. And look, they're putting on some amazing shows.
Incredible.
I've been to a number of them now, luckily and fortunate enough to have done so. But one sort of observation that people coming over from who have experienced other shows in the UK or other countries would say that atmosphere is not quite there. And this is why I think you need to get someone like Cody, Big Bo on there to engage, right? And galvanize.
Well, the complaints about the atmosphere is, I think, a little bit premature.
Yeah.
It's hard to build a market. It's hard to build, you know, if we just eliminated the history of British boxing and we just started tomorrow, guarantee the atmospheres wouldn't be that great there either. Right. So it's tough to build that, especially in a different country that's trying to build out this infrastructure and build these shows. But like I said, the MC and the announcer plays an important role.
A massive role.
I would love to be a part of helping shape and create that atmosphere to whatever degree that could be.
So I'd love to say I could pick up the phone to His Excellency Turkey Al-Sheikh, but unfortunately I can't make that call. We'll have to get someone else to make it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sure you'll get that crack soon, because it's great to see Ben Shalom, boxer, on that on the Riyadh season now as well, together with Queensbury and Matchroom. And you know, for us as fight fans, we just want to see the best fights, no matter what stable, whatever promotion comes.
And a good show.
So we've got to do that.
Best fights and a good show.
And the good show, absolutely. Right, last question on boxing. Then I want to turn on some of the business side and sports that in particular, because I think that's the side that we don't know about. You, the COO role that you play. But final question on the boxing. You're here this week in the UK.
Yes.
A really exciting fight that I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Azim and O'Hara.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Adam. I think he's a phenomenal talent. O'Hara as well. You know, it didn't quite go his way the last fight. But that was a tough fight.
Yeah.
How do you see that one going?
I love the fight. I think it's when the fight got announced, because I'm not always made privy to the fights before they happen. Sometimes they kind of tease it to me because they're like, hey, keep this date, you know, whatever. So, you know, sometimes I know, but with this one, I didn't.
Right.
I knew that there were a couple opponents they were trying to get, and O'Hara was one of them. But the fact that they did is great. I think it's a big step up for Adam.
Yeah.
I think that Adam is getting to the point now to where, all right, he's got these fights under his belt. He won the European title. We do need to start testing him, but at the same time, he's also 21, which is
baby. I mean, you're a
absurd.
Baby. He's more of a baby than you are. Yeah.
The fact that he is where he is at his age, it's wild. It doesn't even make sense. So now it's, you know, it's the difficulty of, it's like, all right, well, we need to push him, but how fast do we push him? Because his body is not even fully developed yet. Like most men hit their athletic peak in their early to mid 30s.
I thought you were going to say 48 or something. I thought there was some hope for me yet, you know?
So the point is Adam isn't even fully developed as an athlete yet, which is crazy. Like if this was an American sport, he would still be in college at 21, you know?
Yeah.
So it's but I love the step up. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think he's going to be challenged a lot by O'Hara. I think that O'Hara is a significant step up. So it's really going to help us get an idea of where Adam's at.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for it. You got Anthony Yard on the card returning, which is great. You've got a great fight with Dan Aziz and Louis
Dan Aziz is one of our, someone who we really, really like as well. So.
I love Dan. Dan was one of the first people he's become a friend of mine also. I went to Paris with Dan and announced when he won the European title, you know, things like that. So I love Dan, love Louis. I think that's going to be a good fight. That light heavyweight division's getting really exciting.
Yeah.
Got Fran Hennessy on the card. You got a lot of
great... It's a stacked card.
It is.
Fair, so it should be a great show.
Exactly. And I think that, you know, Boxer is hitting its, you know, a point of maturity now to where the stable's built out. We've got a lot of the initial fights done on a lot of people, and we can start getting them into, not we, obviously I don't I don't make those decisions, but boxer can start getting them into
Yeah.
certain fights that they want. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time for everyone. And sky's the
Literally,
limit,
yeah.
but Sky, the network, is
Yeah.
the limit. So
And I'm really excited about Martin Bacoli as well. I think what he
Yes.
did to Anderson, and now I think you've got to start mentioning him in the same sort of name, if it's not Wardley or Dubois or that sort of level, right? He's a real contender in
Well,
this
I
heavyweight division.
remember, I initially met Billy Nelson because Billy Nelson is the guy, he trained Hafthor Bjornsson for that Hafthor Eddie Hall fight that I did in Dubai before I got the boxing. So
Right.
that's where I met Billy Nelson.
Right.
And I saw what Billy did with Hafthor, who's an incredible athlete, but not a boxer. And he got into a point where Hafthor actually looked pretty decent in the ring. He'd throw combos despite being 380 pounds and 6'9" or whatever. So that's where I met Billy. That's where I kind of got an idea for his coaching. And then I've been a part of a couple Martin's fights now where I've seen him fight, and he is incredible. He's extremely light on his feet despite being as big as he is.
Yeah.
He's not easy to put down.
Yeah,
he'll walk through shots and he will walk you down.
Yeah.
And he's a technical enough boxer, and he's got really fast hands for how big he is.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to be a massive pain for whoever he fights. And I think his route is kind of going to be dictated a lot by how the belts maybe go after the Usyk Fury rematch, depending on what happens there. But yeah, it's he's definitely an exciting heavyweight to watch that I've known about that a lot of people didn't know about.
Yeah, we didn't. I'll be honest. We knew of him, but the Anderson fight sort of wow, because Anderson was being built up as something special as well.
That's how boxing works.
So
you one fight that goes the right way, or you show this in that fight, and your career is totally changed.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, we follow him going forwards as well. So we could go on forever on the boxing fight, but we I guess coming to wrap it up now.
Yeah.
I want to just hear more about your, the COO role, Chief Operating Officer for Sports Thread, because we've obviously, when we met, it was about boxing. We had a bit of a discussion about, what you were about outside of boxing. But now we started talking a bit more about Sports Thread. And I've understood that proposition.
Yes.
I think relatively well now.
Yeah, I agree.
But tell me about the COO role, because as I said, you wear so many hats by the looks of it. The entertain, the boxing, the bare knuckle. You're talking about your lineup for this week. I thought I was busy. Your diary is full, so thank you again for taking the time out
absolutely.
This evening. But it's full on, right?
Yeah.
And how do you manage everything that you're doing with a COO role of Sports Thread? And please just enlighten us a bit about Sports Thread and the proposition there.
So I was in college playing football. I mentioned my friend Keenan, who I've been my best friend, basically a brother to me. I remember he brought me into his dorm room when we were living in the dorms. He's like, "Hey, my brother is starting a company and he maybe could use some help, data mining or whatever very basic level project that was even available at the time." At the point, I don't even think I'm not even sure it was a company. It may have just been an idea.
Right.
And I was just like, "Oh yeah, he's got an idea for a company. That's cool." And then obviously it progressed and it scaled and it got to where it became. And I remember I interned him for him one summer.
Yeah.
And I just have stuck with it ever since. And I'm the type of person that when I commit to something, I commit to it. And it's been an amazing journey growing and building a company and being a part of it. Sean, who's Keenan's brother.
Right. I didn't know that. Now I know. Okay.
Yeah, who's also now my other brother and best friend, basically. I'm almost like, they joke, I'm like the adopted brother. But Sean is the CEO and he's built it from the ground up himself. And I've seen, just the backbreaking effort that he's put into it and the time that he's put into it and things like that. And it's easy to work for someone that's like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to work for someone that also leads from the front line, doesn't lead from the back, but he's actually in it with you, He never thought that any task was above him or anything like that. And that's really how we've built our company, is on that mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of our company are former athletes. Yeah. So we love employing athletes because they understand that team dynamic. Yeah. But beyond that, for the company to be successful, it's going to take everyone playing their role.
Yeah.
And I take that same mindset into anything that I do, is that I only play one role. I can't make you do your job or you do your job. But if we all do our one core bit, then we can be successful.
Yeah.
And so Sports Thread has been grown over the past 6 or 7 years now. I've been with the company close to inception, not quite inception, but I was early on. Worn a lot of different hats in the company.
Yeah.
love doing different projects. And, you know, when we were a startup, and we're not a startup anymore, but when we were a startup, everyone had to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, we were trying to determine what the departments were, and we were trying to figure everything out, you know, back when we had 5 employees, and then we had 7 employees, then we had 10, and now we're upwards of 20. And we have a development staff that, you know, that we employ across the world. And we have a network of licensees that, you know, are part of the business. So it's been an amazing journey to grow it and to build it. It's been challenging because we're trying to basically unify an industry that, you know, in the same way that boxing is kind of fragmented, the youth sports, the amateur sports, the pro sports from a technology standpoint is also very fragmented.
Yeah.
You have all these different organizations, whether it's a youth tournament or whether it's a billion-dollar professional organization. They have this industry that features hundreds of different technology partners. One technology maybe does X, one technology partner maybe does Y. There's probably very little synchronicity between the two. So we come in trying to say, all right, well, we have this platform that can do 10, 20, 30 different functions. And we can replace a lot of the independent services that you utilize or the independent softwares that you utilize. But that's also a challenge because you're coming in saying, well, don't use 5, use 1. Don't use 10, use 1. And now you're trying to get this business to want to utilize just one software provider. And now we're also having to build and develop in different directions. But what it's led us to become is to basically become a business that's undeniable. To where we can be entered in at any point, and we can become a part of a business's flow, whether they want to utilize everything that we do or utilize just one thing that we do. But we've been able to build a business now that once we're ingrained, we find that all the businesses want that business then wants to utilize a second part of what we do, or a third part of what we do, or a 10th part of what we do. And that's what's been, I think, the fun part for me is seeing this business grow in a couple different directions, but be successful in all of them. And now it's about, you know, getting in with organizations where we can do everything. It's been enjoyable. So the COO role for me, you asked about the role specifically. I think it caters a lot to what I can bring. I can wear a lot of different hats. I can multitask. I can be a part of different departments. I'm good at delegating work. I like leading, things like that. So it makes sense for me to be in that COO role. People that work in operations can relate that operations does cover a lot of things. But it's ultimately just making sure that the car is running and things like that, and it's going in the right direction, that you're uniting different teams together, and you're taking this task from this department and seeing how it applies to this department, or maybe pulling resources from this department to run this department. So it's challenging from that respect, but I think it plays a lot into my strengths.
It's just crazy though. I still think professional ring announcer, COO, you know, like two of the widest sort of, you know.
Like I think it's the CEO of Goldman Sachs is also a DJ or something like that. It's kind of like
something
that.
Like that.
Kind of like that deal, I guess. So.
Excuse me. This episode of the Legal Blows podcast is powered by Sunashot. Check out Sunashot for the amazing healthy shots and smoothies expertly crafted with a blend of ashwagandha, shilajit, black seed, and halal bovine collagen. This unique combination is designed to strengthen your immune system, fight inflammation, and enhance your overall well-being. Start your journey to better health today. Take a shot and feel the difference. But one thing I think, hopefully even the audience who watch this podcast will see, and what I found out even during this podcast, is right from the very beginning when you talked about college life and the football, the basketball, the academics, the ring announcing, you're passionate about everything that you've done. You haven't cut any corners. You've gone in, you know, to learn the art of doing what you do, whatever you're doing, you're going to go deep in. And when we started speaking about Sports Thread, what really impressed me was the knowledge that you have, and Sean had obviously, but the knowledge you have of that business. It just seems like whatever you're going to do, whatever that may be,
you have to be obsessed.
You're going to be obsessed and you're going to give 110%. Otherwise, you're not going to bother doing it, are you?
I think I make no bones about it that I want to be the best at what I do. And I don't say that as any, you know, insult or disrespect to anyone else that does it.
And it's not arrogance. It's just who you are.
It's an internal thing to where if I'm going to commit all this time and all this energy, well, then I'm going to commit it with the goal of being the best at what I do, internally at least. So I think that carries over when it talks about time and commitment and energy and things like that, as to where, okay, well, I have to commit that time and be that passionate of it, or I can't be the best at it. It doesn't work like that. So I think that's a challenge too, because you have to be obsessed about it. I remember I got asked for an interview once or something, nomination or something like that, but I got asked, like, what is the most important trait of an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And it listed out intelligence, charisma, like a handful of ones, but the one that I picked is grit.
Great. Okay.
In the sense that you have to commit to it long term.
Yeah.
Things are going to go wrong. You're going to fail in certain areas. You're going to have this idea that you think is the greatest idea since sliced bread, and it falls flat on its face.
Yeah.
And now you have to pick yourself back up and say, all right, well, here's what I learned from that error, and here's how I can apply it to this going forward. So it's an overall level of commitment that it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think my generation may not look at commitment the same way. I think a lot of my generation likes the get rich quick approach, and they try to go that route, which, do your thing. I don't tell people how to live their life. But
You're old school.
I truthfully believe that if you want to build something great and successful, you have to commit to it long term. You have to look at it with a long-term approach. It can't be a 3-month plan. It needs to be almost a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
And that's tough for people, but I think it's critically important if you want to be the best at something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, final question now before we wrap up. Is the mustache here to stay?
I'm liking it. I get asked about the mustache all the time. The mustache, as it was been, I guess, aptly named. I like it. I think it's different.
It suits you.
Some of the ladies like it. Some don't. Some definitely don't. So it's hit or miss. But as of now, it's going to stay.
You're going to look great with it or without it.
Yes, I agree.
Listen, Cody, thank you so much for being on our podcast. It's been a real pleasure having you here, and grateful for you taking the time out.
I know what Legal Blows tries to do, both within the scope of law, but also a little bit in the boxing as well. Appreciate what you do for people. And again, I grew up in a law family, so I understand the importance that you have in a society also. Yeah. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Well, that's a wrap, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed this really special podcast. So nice to have Cody here, and hopefully watch out for the next one. Thank you.